Arne Slot makes exception for Man City with separate Liverpool admission. Liverpool boss Arne Slot had a different view of the game from the stands as the Reds beat Newcastle United with goals from Dominik Szoboszlai and Alexis Mac Allister. Liverpool head coach Arne Slot felt that his side's 2-0 win over Newcastle United was a return to normality in terms of performance after the victory at Manchester City last weekend. The Reds had a record low amount of possession on that occasion, but quickly got back into their usual groove. Slot, who was serving the first game of his 2-match touchline ban, had a different view of the 90 minutes than usual. And from the stands, he could see that Liverpool was dominant and largely in control against a Newcastle team that it will face again in a few weeks' time at Wembley. As expected, even better than at the line, but not something I prefer or want to do more often, Slot told the BBC. But we still won the game. This was more like the way we've won the previous games. Difficult against Man City, that's separate. This was more like how we have been winning games all season. The most important thing that after Everton, Wolves, and Villa, people started to doubt us. Then you have to react to that. That's always easier because people start to question you, but after City, everyone was so positive, then people start to get confident and complacent. Only the ones that want to achieve something, they find another gear to win the next game as well. We have had a lot of praise after City game, but before that we had 2 draws and not the best game against Wolves, so we were questioned. 9 out of 10 people say we're going to work harder. This was a different challenge because people were so positive after City. That needs a different kind of mental strength to then face a tough Newcastle side a few days later. Next weekend, as a result of not being in the FA Cup, Liverpool doesn't have a game to play. And that will allow for some extra preparation time ahead of PSG, with the players afforded a couple of days off. Dominik Szoboszlai shows true colours when told Arsenal have dropped points again. The Liverpool was told on the pitch after Liverpool's win over Newcastle that the Gunners had slipped up and handed the team a 13-point advantage at the top of the table. Dominik Szoboszlai said he will not start thinking about Liverpool's probable Premier League title win. The Reds moved 13 points clear of Arsenal on Wednesday night thanks to a 2-0 win over Newcastle United, as the Gunners were held to a goalless draw against Nottingham Forest. It's the second round of Premier League fixtures in a row that Liverpool has extended its lead at the top as it closes in on a 20th top-flight title. It was another dominant display from Arne Slot's side, despite the manager watching from the stands, and as they limited Newcastle to just 3 shots all night, none of which were on target. As for Liverpool, Szoboszlai and Alexis Mac Allister were on target on a rare night when Liverpool's attackers didn't score, although Mohamed Salah did provide another assist. And while fans are dreaming of another title, Szoboszlai isn't, getting too excited, refusing to rub salt in Arsenal's wounds and taking nothing for granted. Told on the pitch after the win over Newcastle that Arsenal had slipped up again, Szoboszlai was asked when he would celebrate the title. After mathematically they have no chance to get us, he replied. We are really happy that we are 13 points clear, but we focus on ourselves now, and we have the Champions League coming up next week, and we will have to focus on that as, well, game by game we are looking forward to being on the top. When I came to Liverpool, I wanted to win everything in my first season, so I don't like to talk about it, he added. We have to focus game by game, and first the Champions League we have to go through, and we have a Premier League game in between. Then we have a cup final against them, Newcastle, a really tough team, a really good playing style, and we have to be ready for what they do. Focus first on the Champions League and the cup final coming up as well. Szoboszlai netted for the second Premier League game in a row, the first time he has achieved that feat, with the former RB Leipzig, man also scoring in Sunday's 2-0 win over Manchester City. It's my second season that I didn't have the chance to score in a different game, he said. I am really happy to help the team. The most important is the team, and if I can score back-to-back, I will be happy. But I am more happy about being in the first position in the league. Liverpool player ratings, winners and losers versus Newcastle as Luis Diaz and 2 more superb. Liverpool player ratings, winners and losers versus Newcastle as Dominik Szoboszlai and Alexis Mac Allister scored to send Arne Slot's side 13 points clear at the top. Anfield, Liverpool, Liverpool, has increased its lead at the top of the Premier League table to 13 points, with Dominik Szoboszlai opening the scoring against Newcastle United. Arne Slot, watching on from the stands, saw his side largely control proceedings. Early in the first half, Liverpool moved in front through Szoboszlai when he was teed up by Luis Diaz. The Hungarian's low show found the back of the net, and once news of Arsenal's draw with Nottingham Forest came through, the result was always likely to be seen through. That was confirmed when Salah teed up Alexis Mac Allister, who doubled his side's lead, prompting the songs about winning the title to come from the stands. At this point, it would be a surprise if that wasn't the outcome in May. Winners Diaz was skipping past his marker for fun at times, robustly sidestepping challenges from various directions as they were thrown in. He looked so much better off the left than through the centre, and that continued here. The challenge for Arne Slot will be fitting both him and Cody Gakpo into the team at the same time. A nice problem to have. Losers Darwin Núñez only came off the bench with a couple of minutes remaining, with the Uruguay again not chosen to start. Diogo Jota was selected instead, and after Arne Slot's criticism of Núñez's performances lately, it is not a surprise. It is perhaps an indication of where he stands ahead of the summer. At that point, he and Liverpool will have a big decision to make. Before that, there is plenty of silverware to focus on, and Núñez could yet play a role like he did against Brentford no so long ago. Player ratings: Alisson Becker, 7. The Brazilian barely touched the ball in the first half, in which Newcastle didn't have a shot on his goal. He was slightly busier in the second half, but it was a pretty comfortable outing for him. Trent Alexander-Arnold, 6. Having struggled slightly in a defensive sense against Jeremy Doku, albeit none of those take-ons came to anything, it was Joe Willock that Alexander-Arnold came up against here. He was beaten a couple of times, but nothing that was dangerous. Going forward, he was hit and miss. Ibrahima Konate, 7. There was no Alexander Isak, but you can only play what is in front of you. Callum Wilson offered little in the way of a threat, with the Frenchman largely dominating aside from one or two moments where he was slightly out of position. Virgil van Dijk in 7. Like with Konate, this was a mainly uneventful game for the defender. He will face a much bigger test at Wembley in a few weeks' time, assuming that Isak returns for that one. Kostas Tsimikas, 6. Selected to give Andy Robertson a well-earned rest, the Greek slotted in nicely at the back. There was nothing spectacular, but he did well enough against Jacob Murphy, who can be deceptively problematic. He had one of two moments where he needed to recover, but he did. Ryan Gravenberch, 7. With Anthony Gordon tasked with sitting on him every time Liverpool had the ball, he didn't have loads of space. He still twisted away from his marker a good few times, and he didn't look jaded at all despite the hectic recent schedule. Alexis Mac Allister, 8. Neat and tidy in the middle and had to battle. He scored a great goal to make the game safe at 2-0 and showed plenty of energy. Another good performance, Dominik Szoboszlai, 8. It was a miracle he could even stand up after the amount of running he has gotten through lately. Starting for the 12th game in a row, he netted the first goal of the game with a low strike that squeezed in. Even deep into the second half, he didn't seem to tire. He never does. This was yet another full match that he lasted. Mohamed Salah, 7. The Egyptian forward was kept relatively quiet by Lewis Hall, the impressive Newcastle left-back. He still could have won a penalty in the first half and had a couple of sighters at Nick Pope's goal. At one point, he tried to dribble past 5 or 6 defenders in a mazy effort and nearly managed it. Diogo Jota, 7. Selected over Cody Gakpo, the Portugal forward was lively enough down the middle. He didn't have loads of chances to score, but was useful in keeping things ticking over. He will hope to re-establish himself as the first choice number 9 over the next few weeks, and this was a good start to doing just that. Luis Diaz, 8. In his favoured position from the off again, the Colombian set up the opening goal with a well-placed pass into the path of Szoboszlai. He caused Tino Livramento a good number of issues down that side and looked no less lively when he moved into the middle. Energetic and with final product too, he looked really determined to nail down his spot in the starting Keaton.